Jenny Smith, and if we can have a moment of silence when we say the prayer, Pastor Kretsu, that'd be appreciated. Also, Commissioner Legg is with his brother-in-law. I don't know, he was in critical shape. Last Thursday was the last report I got, and he's in West Virginia, I believe. So if you'll keep the Legg family in your prayers as well, in addition to the Warner family. We got big needs up here. And we have AC tonight, so that's good.
Yay.
We've got Dr. Bob Kretsu tonight from Hope Mills United Methodist Church. He'll do our invitation, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All that can, please rise.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, and just allow me a second to thank the town leadership for being so welcoming to our faith communities. We do have Good Friday service coming up at First Baptist for everyone in the community at noon, and there will be refreshments afterwards. Everybody's invited. Also this Sunday at 7 a.m. right outside here at the gazebo, a community Easter sunrise service, and again, everybody is welcome. It's wonderful to be part of a community like this. I wanted to share just a brief passage from Philippians. Each of you should look out not only for your own interest, but also to the interests of others. Your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant. Being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. Let us pray. Lord God, we come to you tonight, humbling ourselves, considering this very holy week. Lord, as Christians complete the season of Lent, season of self-sacrifice, and consider the greatest sacrifice of your Son, Jesus on the cross, as atonement for our sins. Lord, we also lift up the people of Paris and people of faith all around the world as we grieve the passing of a great landmark, the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. Lord, we thank you that no lives were lost. We also lift up Commissioner Legg in his time together with family, and Mayor Warner and her family as they grieve her mother's passing. Lord, we pray that you would give us wisdom tonight in our deliberations. Lord, that you would bless each of our community leaders, and we thank you for this beautiful community that we have the privilege of living in. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? And if not, can we get a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Thank you. We have several presentations, so everybody try to bear with us. It's good that there's so much involvement in our community, in our town. The first presentation is by Ms. Joy Jones from Community and Municipal Relations Manager with Waste Management.
How's everybody doing tonight? First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come in and talk to you about our recycling program and the current recycling climate that we're all dealing with pretty much across the country right now. We're just going to kind of get started. This first slide, I don't want to bore you with all the details of it. The biggest thing I wanted to put together for this is to kind of just show what has happened in our country in the last 24 months with recycling. And it's a bit of a domino effect. In 2017, we started with China taking in the majority of recycling, pretty much nationwide, and across the globe, really. And as they started changing their policies, we saw the effects of that into 2018, and then at the end of 2018, when they went down to it's a less than a 0.% that they even allow for any kind of contamination in the recycling. And since they were taking the abundance of it, we saw the markets changing. We saw that happening, and I think everybody started looking at different alternatives. It takes time to get those things in place. So a bit of a domino in effect of where that went into effect in 2018, and it's of course affecting us into 2019. Some of the predictions that we had heard is that we thought that it would kind of plateau or at least start evening out at the end of 2018. That has not been the case. We are still seeing in the first quarter of 2019 where those markets are continuing to still drop, including cardboard, which is normally this time of year is the one thing that you start seeing kind of start rising up between like March and April areas of that. That being said, there are some positive impacts that we're seeing. There's multiple paper mills that are being constructed. Some haven't started yet, but we're already hearing of those that are going to be coming up. I think there's 3 that I know of in between Midwest. There's one going in the South. So we know that things are going to start turning around. It's going to take us time to see that. It took a while to see the full impact of it. It's just going to take some time to see the other side of it as it starts recovering at some point in time. It's probably going to be into like 2020, 2021 before we start seeing those turn and things start evening back out and start making an upward swing on those. That being said, we're waste management. I mean, it's recycling is what we do. We're never going to come in here and tell you we think you shouldn't recycle. What we are going to say is, what can we do better? How can we help you? How can we clean up recycling? How can we just, go to almost back to the basics a little bit of the markets that are still salvageable, and as those other things are changing, we'll acclimate as we've done throughout the years. I wanted to touch on this part. The local recycling facility is Pratt owned. We go to them and we're a customer like anybody else. They increased their rates starting January 1st. We all foresaw that it was coming, and honestly, we're kind of fortunate in this part of the state that we are just seeing the impact in 2019. A lot of municipalities and kind of across the country have been dealing with this since 2017 into 2018. The only concern we had was the fact that we didn't get notice like late 2018 to be able to notify our municipalities of this and be prepared for the financial impact that was going to be coming from that. Currently, they were not charging any processing fee on that part, and now with glass, it is now a $60 a ton processing fee. Some municipalities start considering, what if we take glass out? There's other ramifications if you decide to go that route. Number one, are you going to overflow on your solid waste carts? Are you going to do additional carts? One upside that we have in North Carolina is that we are able to recycle that glass. I think if you're in an area that there's not an option for it, I think the decision, moves towards landfilling it. But there is a facility in the Wilson area that we work with, Strategic Materials, and every Murph and Pratt works with them as well. So the material is being recycled. Glass is one of those items. It's heavy. So of course the biggest part is your transportation, and it's not a high value market. So that's one of the impacts that Pratt is dealing with here locally on that part of it. And that's where the ramifications we're seeing right now of them increasing their rates for that portion of that. So that being said, where do we go to? What are we looking at? How do we kind of adjust in this climate? The biggest thing is, how do we balance the economical impact of what we're dealing with the fact that we still want to, recycling is going to be a core value of what we do in our country. If we stem away from that, we're just undoing all the years of hard work that we've all done with that. So on a waste management perspective, our thing is, we are a partnership with the recycling collection here. So how can we help you do that? One thing that we wanted to talk about is, some things have changed. A few years ago, we had the idea that we kind of pushed the more the merrier in the recycling container. When times were good and the markets were good, we all said, put everything in there, and then we started looking and seeing, we need to evaluate what we're putting in, and now we're to the place where we need, one of our slogans is recycle often, recycle right, and that's one thing that I wanted to touch on here is, it's a website that we've got. It's a great education educational tool that we have. We call it a widget, but it's really more of a code that you would almost add like an icon. If you would be interested in it, we could do it for the town's website, social media, things like that. You don't have to worry about updating it at all. We do all of that. So anytime residents were to go to, let's say, your town website or social media, they can click on that link. It takes them right into our Recycle Often website, and it just gives all of this information. It's just educational tools, and it'll link up with your current program in Hope Mills if residents have questions about what they can recycle, what they can't. That's what we should be helping with. And that's one way that we were talking about helping with the education part of that. And we can expand and do other things if we want to do some community events. There's other ways that we can do that. We try to label, let's say we're picking up a cart and we notice that there's some items in there that we can't collect. We'll leave a notification cart tag on there so that the resident will understand why we weren't able to pick up that material. So that's something we want to continue and partner with you guys and help with that side of it. The Recycle Often, Recycle Right, and just kind of brainstorm together and see if there's any other ways that we can help with that part of it. The contamination really isn't, it's what we expect in a municipality. We're looking somewhere in like the 15 to 20% range. The glass is not considered, we don't consider that to be a contamination. It is just one of those things because it costs more to transport and it's the heaviest material that we collect in the recycling. That's where we're seeing the financial impact of where they're having to start charging to do that. But it's not something, we will never, we don't look at it and say that that's, we don't think it's residue. It can be recycled, and because of where we're at, we're lucky enough to have that option. There's a lot of places that we don't have that. Again, just kind of touching on what can we do. It's education, and it just continues. So talking about kind of getting back to the basics of your paper products, your cardboard products, your plastic bottles. I think the issue that even, you know, Pratt they're a paper mill, so of course they want your paper and your cardboards and things like that, but we've evolved to this place now where when you go into the grocery store, you know, when you go into the produce department, there's all these clamshell containers and there's all these newer items that there is an outlet for somewhere. If it's got a recycle label, but the thing is it local, or is the company that takes it, are they in Seattle, Washington? You know, so that's the part that we have to kind of get back to educating and seeing in a typical single stream collection program, what items are actually being recycled and what, you know, is there sources for those in a local capacity. The biggest issue we looked at are two big things, and this is regardless of what recycling company you work with. The two biggest issues that we all face is plastic bags. They wrap around conveyor belts, they shut down equipment for hours, and it creates a big mess. And of course the issue of being food waste, because food waste will contaminate an entire load and then you can't salvage anything out of that. So that's the two things that we can, you know, help with and try to continue education on that part of it. So getting into the shared value part of it, the big thing I wanted to point on this part is Waste Management will always remain committed to recycling. It's just an ever-growing process that we may just have to evolve a little bit as we go, and that's one of the places that we're at right now. We'll continue to help you with that, whether it's some educational tools, helping with some community events, hosting some events, like anything that we can do on that part of it, we're happy to help and try to keep the contamination down and keep your materials so that's something that we can continue to utilize Pratt. That is the local facility that's here, and if we have to start looking at other sources, there's a big investment in that part of it. So now that we've kind of gone through some of the bad news of it, the upside is we do see this turning around. It's just going to take us some time to get there. I think they actually had some information in here that we had included about some upcoming paper mills that are being built. I think there's one that is going up, could be wrong, but I think it's Ohio. I've heard of one coming in Georgia, and I think there's going to be another one maybe in West Virginia area. So we will start seeing the impacts start turning around. We just kind of have to kind of get back to the basics and make sure that we're doing all of our part for the education part and just kind of getting through the current recycling climate that we're in. That kind of covers on my part. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there any questions from the board?
I don't have any.
Mr. Belfars?
I just thank you guys for doing the recycling
Thank you.
that you're doing. It's
appreciate it.
It's great and it's wonderful.
We appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. We spoke before the meeting about maybe adding commercial services at some point. And would that help reduce the cost to the residents as far as spreading costs?
If we can, we can look at that option. I can't say that for sure because again, this isn't a facility that we own. We are a customer to them like anybody else is. Our business model is a little different on our MRFs because we are a single stream recycler. So we don't, it's not specific items that we want to take. It's just kind of, it's our basic of our process of it. So when I say we're going to continue to do that, I don't foresee that slowing down. But we can certainly look at some other options. I mean, the two things, of course, if, the more density that you've got, that can always make a big impact on that part, and just making sure that it's good, clean material. So yeah, that's absolutely a possibility, and we'd be happy to look at some options with that as well.
'Cause I don't think at the town level, we don't have recycling, do we? For a town hall and administrative offices and that type of thing? Do we?
What- Recycling?
Do we have
Oh.
recycling here?
Oh, yeah, we do recycling.
I mean,
most definitely.
For the building,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Oh, definitely.
But
yeah.
commercial
Big
offices
parts.
do not have that in Hope Mills.
Oh, no, we recycle
Yeah.
our trash.
I mean, I'm in a
Yeah.
two-story building, we don't have recycling for our firm.
Yeah.
I guess I'm taking it up with the landlord, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pick
And-
it up with the recycling parts.
Yeah,
here.
and in talking with Joy and meeting, Don and I have already met with her, and we are going to put the educational link on our website because we really think that's a key factor in continuing successfully, is to get the educational piece out there, and also we're going to put it on social media, but we wanted to present this to you before we started kind of hammering that out there to
Yes.
everybody, that here's the correct way to recycle. So,
And kind of explain what it is. The great thing about, we call it a widget. I don't know if that's the professional name for it all, but the great thing about it is it's not one of those
yeah.
things that before you go to it, you've got to do updates. Like a lot of times with apps and things like that, you've got to
Right.
update before you can do it. We do all of that. So any updates we have is done automatically when you add it to your website. So anytime you go to it, it's already been up to date of information that comes in, and we're adding things to it all the time.
Right.
Before I did our municipalities, I worked with our education, K through 12s, colleges, things like that. It's wonderful to be able to have that for kids to go to. I mean, it's an
Right.
ever-changing thing with recycling. I mean, think about what we recycled and where we were at like 10 years ago and what we could take, how you recycled it. It's just an ever-changing market. So that's one way that we can kind of keep everybody up to date on what's the
Yeah.
current trends and what's everything that's happening in the recycling climates right now.
Yep.
We appreciate it, Ms. Jones. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem, we are going to be presenting some budgetary information at our budget workshop because the cost of recycling has gone up. So
Right. Okay.
we're going to make some recommendations to you all.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we have a presentation by Mr. Mason Steele of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
For
Collins.
Don. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, over here.
Okay. That's for you. Yeah.
Remember this?
Greetings. Pro Tem Mitchell, commissioners, town staff, and citizens, and especially my historical group. I want to talk about the Parish House. First page that you see is a photo in January of 2019 of the house. There's a map underneath it that shows the location, 3711 South Main Street. Next page I show all three buildings, including the old town hall. Of course, one in the front is the Episcopal Church. Underneath that is a map of the historic district for our town. Hope Mills First, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Pat Hall, Chair of our commission, and fellow members who have come to represent our HPC, which is the Historic Commission. I was asked by Commissioner Jesse Bellflowers to make a presentation regarding the inspection and its condition on April the 9th of 2019 by Jeff Adolson. The NCDNCR State Historic Preservation Office. He's a restoration specialist for Cumberland County. My commission chair requested that I accompany Mr. Adolphinson as representative of the Historical Preservation Committee. Having accompanied him throughout the entire inspection, I was able to learn firsthand of his findings. He noted items for repair and preventive maintenance that have already been found in previous reports, a summary of which are found at the end of this report with attachments. Some more recent defects were noted due to the lack of HVAC, electricity, and general maintenance. When I asked Mr. Adolphison if he was going to provide a written report, he stated that he does not compile the information into a written report. However, during his observations, he clearly stated that the building should be saved. Though I have already submitted a summary of my visit to our HPC, which the Commissioner Larson also shared with the Board of Commissioners, the Town Manager, Melissa Adams, with also present these findings this evening as part of her Town Manager reports shown under tab 18. Having found no significant differences to my summary, I have decided to let her report stand, and I instead will present the basis of the historical significance of this structure and emphasize the importance of its preservation. The history of the Episcopal Parish House. The Episcopal Church was founded in 1701 in Edenton, North Carolina, according to the records of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. When our founding fathers and countrymen searched for a life of freedoms in the New World, one of the most important of these is the freedom of religion. Serves as a basis for the founding of Christ Church in Hope Mills. Though much is unknown about the exact date the mission was established or by whom, it is believed to have been erected circa 1839 and is now known as the Episcopal Church. The architecture of this time was late Federal and or Greek revival. The town and the buildings of the late 1830s exhibited during the Civil War, particularly during the last months of fighting. The North Carolina cotton mills ran at full capacity and served the Confederacy in good stead until March the 10th, 1865, when General Frank Blair, under the orders of General Sherman, built a temporary bridge across Little Rockfish Creek, destroying the machinery, burned down 8 mills, including the largest antebellum cotton mill in North Carolina, Rockfish Manufacturing Company Mill No. 1. Only 1 mill was left on Beaver Creek, now known as Bluff Mill. Among some of the other buildings Sherman's army left untouched was the Episcopal Church. In 1871, Rockfish Manufacturing sold the entire property, 1,496 acres, including Rockfish Village, Thomas C. Oatman for $7,630. Later, he sold the property back all except the lot on the Episcopal Church. In 1891, Hope Mills incorporated as a town as Hope Mills Number 1. The town had no limits, but rather embraced a distance of 3/4 mile in each direction with a company store as a center point, Main Street and Trade. In 1910, the regional bishop from Edenton, North Carolina, sent Reverend Robert Strange to Hope Mills with his first task to build a parish house and rectory. With a struggling congregation of 48 communicants, there was a lot of discouragement in the church, but with the presence and faith of Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson Stone, the construction of the parish house was finally finished, soon to become a real community center for the mill workers and townspeople. When the cotton market collapsed in 1914, Mill Number 4, completed in 1904, shut down for 2 years. In 1916, the parish house was damaged by fire and rebuilt with a second floor with gables and dormers, as it looks today. In 1931, the Episcopal Church was destroyed by fire and rebuilt to today's appearance. In the 1940s, Mebane Yarn Mills bought Mill Number 4, which in 1947 became Rockfish Milburn Yarn Mills, operating until it was sold to the Dixie Yarns in 1964. With the advent of plumbing, accessory buildings to the mill, such as a boarding house circa 1907 and mill houses circa 1915, were sold to the new resident owners. In the 90s, Mill Number 4 became vacant and was put up for sale. In 1985, Historic Mill Village was established and included in the National Register of Historical Places. The Episcopal Church and Parish House are referenced under Item 7, page 9 and 10. The 1 1/2 story parish house stands north of the Episcopal Church and has a gabled portico protecting double doors, 4 to 5 bay sides, and dormers in the side roof faces. Due to the historical and architectural significance of the parish house, as outlined on the previous page, and thought the hard work and persistence of Pat Hall, chair of the HPC, the Episcopal Church and Parish Hall were donated to the town of Hope Mills in 2010 and finally deeded to the town in February 13 of 2015, with future plans to make the Hope Mills Historic Museum. On 12/29 of 13, general home inspection for the buyer was made by Merispec Inspection Services. The 18 pages of the findings might seem formidable at first, but consider that the vast majority of these defects are minor. Report states that the purpose of this inspection is to identify major problems associated with the property being purchased or sold, although minor items may also be mentioned. Remember, the building is 109 years old and is expected to have settling and other minor issues, as does any historic building. In all cases, the inspector recommends a qualified contractor to examine and or repair the majority of the items, many of which are minor defects which could be remedied with a little monies or time required, such as a missing doorknob, but indicates that a licensed mechanical contractor would need to repair the mechanical defects such as HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, etc. A recommendation is not required, or not a requirement, unless it is for safety or health. Attachment A, page 4 of 18, paragraph 1505, talks about the subfloor damage due to past termite infestation. Same attachment, paragraph 1506, supports posts and columns. Attachment B, page 14 of 18, regarding a crawl space. Any damage to the subfloor of current bathroom would be corrected as a part of ADA compliance. Interestingly, the buyer's inspection does not indicate the composition of the plumbing interior lines, only the cast iron drain and vent pipes. See attachment C. An asbestos and lead inspection was done by Environmental Concerns of Fayetteville, Inc. in July the 9th, 2015 on both buildings. And naturally, in a building this old, some would find lead-based paint was common in all buildings prior to 1978, but was only found as the top chipping, peeling layers around the windows and trim. The interior blue paint should be of no concern, as it is shown to be in good condition, but did cover older lead-based paint. Original exterior siding is covered with aluminum siding. Asbestos was common as an element in linoleum flooring and was found in the flooring covering the parish house, but not in a friable condition. And that's very important, a friable condition. Therefore, it could easily and safely be removed. Attachment D is a Terminex inspection on August 23rd of 17, finds no qualified new termite damage. However, recommendations were made to remove debris under building, install vapor barrier, a dehumidifier with vent sealing, R19 crawl space insulation, and conduct a fungal treatment. He also recommended an interior and exterior treatment and an annual inspection for preventive maintenance. In conclusion, on behalf of the Historical Preservation Commission, I recommend that the Board of Commissioners adopt the parish house as a preservation element as part of the town's comprehensive historic overlay district. The parish house can be used as an auxiliary building for the museum, storage, etc., until such time as it can be approved for public usage for special gatherings and civil events such as the old mill days. In addition to any monies left over from the original appropriations from the Board of Commissioners, additional funding to make repairs, preservation of the building will be obtained through grants, fundraisers, donations, and volunteer contributions. Steps needed to ensure its immediate preservation. Instruct a fire marshal to remove the X's from the building's exterior. Ask Finance Director Drew Holland to provide a summary of all monies appropriated for the museum project, detailed expenditures, and balance available. HPC needs an inspection and an estimate for the repairs of the front porch damaged in December of 2018, so that an insurance claim can be filed for the damage caused by an auto accident. Repairs to be completed as soon as possible. Replace the roof and make any required repairs, including the chimney flashing and seals. Make sure that all the areas of the building are secure and weather tight. Turn on the electricity. Have a licensed, qualified building contractor repair the floor joists in the crawl space based on the Southern Building Code or equivalent. Begin interior work after the interior is dehumidified. To continual preventative maintenance on the interior of the parish house grounds. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Steele? Town Manager Adams, do you have anything you'd like to respond, or?
No.
Not at this
we're-
time?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're
That's a
Thank
very
you.
thorough
we're
report.
working
Thank-
together on this. So.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank you,
you
Mr.
very much.
Steele.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have two presentations by the Veteran Affairs Committee. I'm going to ask Commissioner Bellflowers if he'd like the honor of doing that, since he's our liaison.
Thank you very much. Two certificates of appreciation, in appreciation and recognition of years of service to the Veterans Affairs Committee or Commission as it was founded. The first award was to Ronald Murray, presented this 15th day of April 2019. Please come. Yeah. One more. Veterans Affairs Committee Certificate of Appreciation and recognition of years of service to the committee. Gene Clark presented this 15th day of April 2019. Main part of our commission, as it was founded, and now a committee today, is through the long hours and efforts put to these individuals of selfless service to serving veterans, family members, and our community. Again, it wouldn't be a committee had it been for these two stewards that's been there all along. One more hand of appreciation.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Bellflowers. We've got an Air Quality Awareness Week proclamation dated for for the week of April 29th, 2019 to May 3rd, 2019. Whereas with the National Weather Service, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the U.S. Forest Service, and the U.S. Department of State, the EPA has announced that Air Quality Awareness Week 2019 will be held April 29th through May 3rd, 2019. Whereas the theme for this year is check the AQI and get outside, and whereas improvement of air quality is a major concern to the Town of Hope Mills Board of Commissioners, and whereas We need clean air to sustain health, tourism, agriculture, and other aspects of the economy. Now, therefore, Mayor Warner, Jackie Warner, of the town of Hope Mills proclaims the week of April 29, 2019 through May 3, 2019 as Air Quality Awareness Week, and encourages all to take part in making our community a cleaner, healthier place to live, work, and play, proclaimed this 15th day of April 2019. Next, we've got a proclamation for Administrative Professionals Day. From the Office of the Mayor, Town of Hope Mills proclamation. Administrative Professionals Day, April 24th, 2019. Whereas there are millions of administrative assistants, secretaries, executive assistants, and office managers working in our nation today, and whereas in 1952, U.S. Secretary of Commerce Charles W. Sawyer initiated the celebration of administrative professionals, and whereas on this day we join with the employers throughout the Tar Heel State to recognize the contributions of Hope Mills administrative professionals, thanking them for their outstanding service to business, government, educational institutions, and other organizations. Now therefore, Mayor Warner is hereby proclaimed April 24th, 2019 as Administrative Professionals Day in Hope Mills, North Carolina, proclaimed this 15th day of April 2019. We're getting there. Next, we've got the Healthcare Decisions Day proclamation. Whereas Healthcare Decisions Day is designed to raise public awareness of the needs to plan ahead for healthcare decisions and related to end-of-life care and medical decision making, and whereas it is estimated that only about 20% of people in North Carolina have executed an advance directive. Moreover, it is estimated that less than 50% of severely or terminally ill patients have an advance directive, and whereas it is likely that a significant reason for these low percentages is that there is both a lack of knowledge and considerable confusion in the public about advance directives, and whereas the town of Hope Mills and other organizations throughout North Carolina are committed to educating the public about the importance of discussing healthcare choices and executing advance directives, and whereas as a result of April 16, 2019 being recognized as Healthcare Decisions Day in North Carolina, more citizens will have conversations about their healthcare decisions, more citizens will execute advance directives to make their wishes known, and fewer families and healthcare providers will have to struggle with making difficult healthcare decisions in the absence of guidance from the patient. Now therefore, Mayor Warner hereby recognizes April 16th, 2019 as Healthcare Decisions Day in the town of Hope Mills, and calls for an observance to the attention to all of our citizens. Next up, we have the National Day of Prayer, Love One Another, dated May 2nd, 2019. Whereas the National Day of Prayer was created in 1952 by a joint resolution of Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. In 1988, the law was unanimously amended, designating the first Thursday of May as a day of national prayer. And whereas the National Day of Prayer has great significance to us, for us as a nation, and enables us to recall the way in which our founding fathers sought the wisdom of God when faced with critical decisions. And whereas the National Day of Prayer has become a national annual observance which belongs to all Americans as a day that transcends different cultures and brings together all citizens from all backgrounds. And whereas our hope is that individuals, churches, and spiritual leaders in America will humble ourselves and unify in prevailing prayer for the next great move of God in America. Now, therefore, Mayor Warner hereby proclaims May 2nd, 2019 as National Day of Prayer in the town of Hope Mills and urges all citizens to observe this day by joining members of all faiths and creeds in seeking divine guidance for ourselves, our leaders, and our country, proclaimed this 15th day of April 2019. We have the Town of Hope Mills proclamation for Older Americans Month, May 2019. Whereas Hope Mills includes a growing number of older Americans who enrich our community through their diverse life experiences, and whereas Hope Mills is committed to strengthening our community by connecting with and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and acknowledging their many valuable contributions to society, and whereas Hope Mills recognizes the importance of bringing together all generations and engaging in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being for the benefit of all, and whereas Hope Mills can enhance the lives of older Americans in our community by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, involving older adults in community events and other activities, providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now, therefore, Mayor Warner hereby proclaims May 2019 to be Older Americans Month, and she urges every resident to take time during this month and recognize older adults and the people who serve them as essential and valuable members of our community, proclaimed this 15th day of April 2019. We're down to the last proclamation. May 2019 Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Whereas in the United States over the last few years, there has been a steady increase in the number of reported cases of Lyme disease. Lyme Disease Awareness Month educates both the young and old about Lyme disease and how they can take steps to prevent it. And whereas in the eastern parts of the United States, the main species of tick which carries and spreads Lyme disease is the deer tick or black-legged tick. And whereas first symptoms are usually flu-like and include fatigue, tiredness, joint and muscle pain, and also a characteristic rash, late symptoms can take much longer to develop, weeks, months, or even years. Late symptoms may include fatigue, mental health issues, the condition arthritis, and chronic encephalitis, I think is that word. And whereas white or light clothing is recommended to make it easier to spot ticks, shirts and t-shirts should be tucked into your pants and socks pulled up over the bottom of the pants. Using an insect repellent can also help prevent the ticks from getting onto you. Pets should also be checked. Before returning inside, it is recommended to do a tick check first. And whereas during the warm summer months, it is important our residents are aware of the potential for acquiring Lyme disease and preventative measures they can take to minimize risk of infection. Therefore, Mayor Warner of the town of Hope Mills, North Carolina, hereby proclaims May as Lyme Disease Awareness Month for 2019, proclaimed as 15th day of April 2019. I think that concludes our presentations. And next up, we have a public hearing, case number P18-40 on our sign ordinance.
Hello, Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, fellow distinguished board members. I won't keep too much of your time. The agenda item that you have before you tonight is simply the full adoption of the sign ordinance changes that we've been working on for about the past 9 months. The most recent work session that we held was on February 7th of this year, and on February 18th, you guys instructed staff to send the full amendments to the county. At the March 19th joint planning board meeting, the planning board for Cumberland County did recommend approval pursuant to the motions located in your packet. Staff recommendation from town staff is for approval as well, and I'd like to upload the floor to any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. McLaughlin?
Only one, Chancellor. Town staff and the county recommend approval, as you said.
Yes,
of
sir.
the signed ordinance after 9 months of long revisions.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions, Chancellor?
I have one.
Sure.
This is fine, and of course I will go along with it, but I still want to matter record that I still don't like the idea of us not having pole signs listed in it.
Understood.
So I will go along with this, but I just
Understood.
still feel the pole sign should be in there.
Got it.
And I guess we'll go ahead and open up a public hearing.
Mayor Pro Tem, in responding to you, Commissioner Edwards, I guess we'll know in coming months if it's challenged about pole signs.
Yes, and I'll probably be the first one to challenge you.
But I agree with you. But in coming months, we'll find out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we've got a new oncoming, hardworking Board of Adjustments out here, so.
Yeah.
Want that?
If that's okay, we'll go ahead and open up a public hearing. If there's any citizens, are we okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
If there's any citizens that would like to speak against the new sign ordinances, if you could come up and state your name and address the board. Seeing none, if there's anybody like to speak in favor of our new sign ordinances, if you'd like to come up and address the board.
Hunter Collins, 5816 Wallace Drive. This is long overdue. Now I want to see somebody enforce it, because this town is raggedy with signs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agree.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak in favor?
Agree.
Rob McLean, 5435 Fountain Lane. Been a long time. And this has been a long time. It has been said before, why should this town look like Cary? Why should this town look like any other better town? Because we are better. And it is about time that the leadership made the town better. And as Tansy very profoundly put it just now, it's no good having the ordinance. You've got to enforce the bloody thing. Otherwise, it means absolutely nothing. We have lost a lot in this town, and we will continue to lose a lot in this town unless you, as the leadership, take command and make this a better place than it can be.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak in favor of the sign ordinance? If not, do I have a motion to close?
Motion.
We have a motion.
Motion.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
No,
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. McLaughlin?
Let's go with it, Mayor Pro Tem. You want to make the motion, or? Long time coming, yes it is. I'll make the motion in case P18-40, the Town of Hope Mills Board of Commissioners votes to approve the text amendment to the Hope Mills zoning ordinance, finding it is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan designated as the 2030 growth vision plan, specifically including Policy Area 9, compatible commercial development services, and Policy Area 10, attractive community appearance and image. The proposed amendment is also generally consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2014, and that one of the adopted goals and objectives of the plan strives to enhance community appearance and reduce sign clutter. along major thoroughfares, and further finds the approval of the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because the amendment, if approved, would enable the town to enforce sign regulations that are consistent with the image the town is seeking to project in their commercial areas. Additionally, this amendment was prepared and submitted by the town of Hope Mills. That is my motion, Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
Thank you.
Chancellor, thank you. You
you.
worked so hard on this.
Thanks, Chancellor. Hey, I'm going to give you the applause, man. Go get them.
See, next we have public comments. We just have one signed up, Mr. Tonzi Collins.
Yeah, Donzie Collins, 5816 Wallace Drive. This was mighty funny. When I come up here tonight, I didn't write this one down. Mason got up there and talked about it. The museum. Pat always definitely worked hard. We need to do something with that building. You come right into the center of town. You got 4 of the historical buildings in Oak Mill. You got the Parsons, the church, the old town hall, and the building in the corner that used to be the antique shop, used to be a cleaner's. We need to clean that up. As hard as they've been working on it, let's see if we can't do it. I got stuff I'd like to give town from when I was at the police department, but I ain't giving nobody nothing until I actually see a museum in the city limits of Oak Mill. They're doing a great job. Number 2, Miss Adams, truck radio and your staff done a great job. I enjoyed it. I had a fun. I believe it's the biggest one we had, but I really enjoyed it. And you really done a great job putting that together along with your staff and all the other employees. Opening day, loved it. I always loved opening day. Been about 35 of them. But we got to keep it going on. But it was a great day. The rain god saved us. Golf course. I always loved the golf course. I see where Miss Larson, Bill Flyer, and a few of you got together. We're going to make it happen. We need to go ahead in front of Vic's house, get them ugly brown and white signs. They got a good looking yard over there. Them signs are making this yard look bad. But we need to go ahead and open it up. People can go out there and walk. It's congested out here. We got to get it on.
Yeah.
And there ain't no reason why we can't get it on and get it done with. I would like to see us get by the other 30 acres of land by there. I've been all over the state this year with my grandson. He's 8 years old, plays travel ball. I never knew what a wagon wheel was. I've been involved in baseball a long time, but now that I've been all over the state with my 8-year-old grandson, I know what a wagon wheel is. That is a nice complex if it's built right. So I recommend that our employees and something. Max, he's good at it. He knows what to go and visit these sites and get a good idea, and let's get on with that too whenever we get some money. Let me tell you one other thing. I went to the senior party last week. You familiar with the senior party? Casey done one heck of a job. There's about 100 people there. Pat, you know how that is.
I do.
They cook some food, man, that will stick to your stomach like white on rice. I love it. But she done a great job. They done an excellent job, and I take care. Here's one of my pet peeves. I work 25 of these. 4th of July celebration at Hope Mills Lake. I don't care who you are, what you done, but you ain't never been down there. You need to go down there. I don't know whether it's going to be closed up this year for 4th of July. I don't know. I know I see where they've got all the wood and everything. But if there's any way that we can do it, we need to bring back to the lake. I know there's fire codes, and I know there's police codes, and I know everything. I work them all. If you set this up right, get your manpower out there right, and do it right, we never had no major problem. Biggest problem we ever had, John Hodges got in a fight one night on Main Street. And he's a pretty big fella, but he handled his own. But he said, "Tom's, I'm getting too old for this." We never had no major problem because we took our people out. The fire departments had their people out. We patrolled that lake. We swept that lake every 2 hours, checked every alcoholic, every cooler there at that park. If you had alcohol, my men sent you on the way. They'll tell you to come back. They're going to give you one more chance. But there's no reason. I'm going to leave y'all with this. Times Square in New York City can drop an acorn and close all them city streets off. And Hay Street this past weekend just closed their street off for 3 hours for the Woodpeckers baseball.
did.
Hope Mills can close that street off for 3 or 4 hours, and let's have our celebration back in the lake.
Tonzi,
Mayor-
thank
Mayor
you, Tonzi.
Tonzi, before you scoot out the door, I want to thank you for introducing me to David McMillan at opening day. I did not say that at the last minute meeting because I did not have your permission to say that you were the one that, gave me the introduction to the other property owner, and I appreciate you entrusting me in meeting him.
As long as it gets done, it's done. That's all I care about.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Commissioner Bellflower?
I just wanted to thank him.
Okay.
Thanks for the remarks.
Next, we have the consent agenda. If you guys would like something moved down, pulled off of the consent agenda, if you let us know. Item A, consideration of approval of the March 9th, 2019 special meeting minutes. Item B, consideration of approval of the April 1st, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Item C, consideration of approval of budget amendment number 11 for $483,946. Board approved contract with M&E Construction on January 22nd, 2019, and funding for the bulkhead from fund balance on February 4th, 2019. Item D, consideration of approval of resolution 2019-09 accepting a donation of the art sculpture A Ride Through Time from the Warner family. Item E, consideration approval of resolution 2019-10 accepting a donation of art sculpture Rebirth from Michael D. Mitchell CPA accounting firm. I know that fellow. Item F, consideration of approval of fee schedule amendment for farmers market. The fee for vendors would be $50 for a full session May through October and $25 for a single Saturday. Item G, acceptance of the March 2019 financial statements. And if that's all right, do I have a motion to approve, or is there anything else? Motion to approve. Okay, all in favor? Seeing none opposed. Next, we have old business, update on the state restoration inspection of the Episcopal Parish House.
Mayor Pro Tem, I want to ask a question to our attorney about item 6A. Dan, before we discuss this issue, it's town-owned property. And I know that there's an ordinance in place that says that the full board must be present to discuss any town-owned property.
Well, to discuss the sale or lease of it.
Okay, so we're okay to discuss this issue.
If you're not selling or leasing it, yes.
Okay, just point of clarity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much,
You're
Mayor Pro Tem, just a point of clarity.
Thank you. Who's doing this presentation?
I am.
You lucky?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so as you all are aware, Mr. Jeff Adolphson came and did the inspection on Tuesday, April the 9th. And as Mr. Steele reported, and as I reported, when he was asked if he did compile a written report of his findings, he replied that he does not do that. So, but we had our chief building inspector there and our public works director, Don Cisco, Mr. Steele, and myself, and then we had a couple of citizens. We had Grilly Mitchell and Rod McLean, and Commissioner Larson was there for introductions, and then she left. After consultation with both Public Works Director Don Cisco and our Chief Building Inspector Ray Reeves, we compiled jointly the report that's in here, the update that's in here, so as not to miss, anything really pertinent. So, and Mr. Steele went over the majority of it, but he did look under the crawl spaces from the openings under the building, and he saw termite damage but no moisture. He identified roofing deficiencies and deficiencies around the chimney as it needs flashing and counter flashing. He recommended removing the aluminum siding on the exterior of the building in order to evaluate the wooden siding. He identified the wooden deck as being built independently from the main structure. He recommended that the gutters needed to be evaluated. Recommended removing the bottom pieces of wood siding to evaluate the sill plates. Recommended the structure be underpinned and some form of circulation be added underneath. Identified interior termite damage that was exposed during the probative termite inspection. It appeared to him that the walls were structurally sound. Upstairs, he identified areas around the chimney that were open to the exterior. He noted that structural work would need to be conducted in order to make the bathrooms and the building ADA compliant. He noted the damage from the recent car accident resulting in damage to the front porch area and the steps. And of course, if we move forward with that, that'll all need to be repaired. And as a point of clarification, I was just asking Drew, because I was pretty sure we have already received insurance proceeds from that, but he has not brought forth a budget amendment yet for you all. It's in the amount of $17,190.56. Thank you, Drew. He was trying to get that for me, so. Mr. Adolphson remarked that a hazardous material evaluation would need to be conducted for asbestos and lead paint, followed by remediation based on the findings. Not sure that we'll be able to use this report where there were 23 samples that were collected, but we will investigate that and see, so that there's no duplication of services. He noted that the paneling, ceiling materials, and sheetrock could all be removed by volunteers once a determination was made regarding the hazardous materials. And finally, before moving forward, he did recommend that a structural engineer conduct an assessment of the building in order to determine the amount of work required to make the building structurally sound. Once that has been done and a determination is made as to whether or not to move forward with the repairs to the building, if we do move forward with repairs, a new roof and flashing would need to be installed immediately. The mechanical systems evaluated and either replaced or repaired in order to have the building climate controlled. And then an assessment would need to be done in order to determine the scope of work to make the building ADA compliant. Unfortunately, that report that was done several years ago, I think it was 13, 14, that is not going to be, the cost of all of that has increased probably, so I don't know that we can necessarily use that. And then finally, he did remark that of course the building could be saved and or restored, and he did mention that there were a number of ways that funds could be raised to assist with the funding of the project grants. He mentioned fundraising, sponsorships, services in kind, and grants. So the Board of Commissioners may wish to decide on the next steps for the building. And just so that you know, I have spoken with Mr. Steele and with Mr. Cisco, and moving forward, we will do whatever the board, we're going to work together on this. So whatever the Board of Commissioners instructs us to do, we will gladly work with Mr. Steele and the Historic Preservation Commission to make whatever it is that you all want to happen for this building.
Any comments from the board?
Mayor Pro Tem? Oh, you got one?
Go ahead, I'll let you go first.
Mason, thank you for your presentation. It was outstanding, and now I see why the two were separate. Chairperson Pat Hall, thank you for coming, along with the members of your historical commission. You know, I looked at both of these reports, and I think there was something that before we go any further down the road, I think the recommendation of the structural engineer is probably where we need to start. I agree with the town manager that all the reports back in 15 are probably at best historical, maybe a baseline of use, but everything has changed since then from all those recommendations. But I did find that in your report that he recommended a structural engineer conduct an assessment of the building in order to determine the amount of work required to make the building structurally sound. And I think that's why it's got the X's on it today and the tape around it's because it's not structurally sound. Or at least, is that my
correct.
opinion?
It's my understanding, and the chief, I believe the chief can maybe speak to it, our fire chief, but I believe that it's been identified with the sign on it that, so that firefighters know they're not to go inside the building.
Okay.
That is what that means. It's not safe for them to go inside.
Okay, I
And
kind of
it's
wanted
our
a
fire
opinion.
marshal that identified that after the inspection or the visit that we all did, and he was present. And no one asked him to do that. He did that on his own. So just point of clarification on that. So Chief Hodges, if you've got anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, sir, that's
or-
fire code.
That's fire
Code
code.
is law.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't believe it can be
we're
removed.
required to put that on. We will not make any interior structural firefighting until the building's structurally sound.
No, I wasn't asking to remove
Yeah.
it. I was asking.
That's
is
why
that-
it's there.
That's why it's there.
We may not be the first department to arrive.
Mhm.
That
Right.
lets other, I mean, that's a national standard. So that lets other departments, other firefighters know, no interior firefighting. We won't make any, I mean, of course, we'll put the fire out,
Right.
but we won't make entry into the building because it's not structurally sound.
And I'm sorry, but I believe Mr. Steele, in his report, asked that it be removed.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's not what I was referencing.
Okay.
I was referencing your report of the recommendation of the building being structurally sound, and that's why that the X is up there and the tape is up there is because it is currently not.
Well, we don't have anything to do with the tape. What the fire
That
code
was-
requires is any entry into the building, that sign has to be posted, so there's actually one on the front and two on the back, if you haven't seen the back.
Yeah.
There's a upstairs door. I think it's ridiculous that we have to put it up there but we do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I believe the tape may be from, or left over from the
Yeah.
accident.
From the
perhaps.
accident. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And I say that, Mayor Pro Tem, because I think that probably is the starting point that we need to go with the assessment, just to see where we're going, what is it going to take to make the building structurally sound? And I think that's what Mr. Adolphson was recommending when I looked through both of the reports. If I'm incorrect, please correct me, Mason.
Well, I don't think it's correct to the point, he clearly stated.
You're going to have to come over to the mic.
Sorry. Mr. Adolphson clearly stated that the building was salvageable.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have that much of issues that couldn't be addressed by a qualified licensed contractor, not a licensed professional engineer. I mean, what needs to be done is an individual needs to go underneath the house, and I'd be glad to get on my hands and knees and go with them. I'm a little bit familiar with some types of structure. There's such a thing as called sister beams. That's where the old termite damage that was at the front of that building, it's structurally sound. It may not take, 20, 50 people come herding across the door. But I think if you've been in the building, did the building feel unsafe to you? No, it didn't to me either. I looked as
I'm
well
not an
as
engineer, though.
Jeff. Yeah, but Jeff sat there and he probed and he looked with his flashlight as well as I did because we were pretty well hand in hand. And as far as the structural integrity of the building, it's sound enough to do minor repairs and work to the underneath floor joists, maybe some of the piers. But as far as that's concerned, I think I'd like to be with the individual. If you deem necessary for a structural engineer, you may do so. But I'd like to have permission to be with that individual.
Well, did he not recommend? Because I'm reading right off the report.
He did, and he stated, I have several names that I can send you. And I'll be happy to email him to clarify. Happy to.
I mean, that's where I'm
I mean,
at.
a simple
Mason.
clarification from him would be easy enough to do by email and/or telephone
That's why we
call.
invited him here.
I think that'd be good. Address
Yeah.
it by
We
email.
we invited him
Yeah.
here for his expert opinion.
didn't
And
say
he
just-
if he recommends a structural engineer conduct an assessment of the building in order to determine the amount of work required to make the building structurally sound, that's where we start. If approved by the board, that's my recommendation. That's
If-
where we start.
If that's your recommendation, that's fine.
And that's basically supporting what he recommended.
I'll be happy to email him and ask for clarification of what he said
And what he would recommend.
and what he would recommend. Correct.
And then maybe get a good civil engineer to go and take a peek at it and come up with a report.
I mean, when I look at something like this, I think it may be of an old car. If the body is not structurally sound, then the car is not salvageable. Am I right? The frame of the car.
I find the frame of that house as sturdy as
Yeah.
any house of its age group. I find that, what is the benefits if we tear that building down? What do we benefit from it?
I don't think we're at that point.
Well, I
I was
we
just
can
following his recommendation.
We can nickel and dime it to death, and the biggest thing to do is, go ahead and get a professional engineer to look at it. But whether or not the engineer will show up to do that, or he'll send one of his technicians down to survey and charge you for an engineer's fee. It's y'all's call. You're the board.
Thank you, Mason.
I suggest you save that building regardless of the cost.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, Commissioner Larson.
can we have clarification then as far as an engineer versus a licensed contractor, building
I'll
contractor?
be happy to call him or
Yeah.
email him.
Um,
Because he said he had several on the list that he could send me, several names when he said it. So,
Structural engineers. Yeah, okay.
or a licensed contractor, whatever he is approving.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell. Thank you, you're so quiet. I think that if they want to go for a structural engineer, that's fine and all, but if it's all right with Town Manager Adams, even though your staff more or less depends on what the board decides to do or how we're voting, I know we have qualified staff that could do a lot of this, or that could give us their opinion of whether it should be done or not. And I'd like to hear their opinion, even though, or can I do that? I'd like to hear what they have to say, their recommendations, because they are also qualified and experienced. Or would that be?
Do we have any liability if we don't use an engineer for something of this nature to open up a building? Mr. Attorney Harshaw?
Probably so. I mean, you know, we've got a recommendation that we have an engineer go look at the building. If we set that recommendation aside and just either open it up or allow people in the building and someone was injured, I could see an argument that we have some responsibility there. I think the prudent course would be to get an engineer to take a look at the building, someone going in who has, you know, their own insurance and they're covered for, you know, their liability of doing their work, and find out what needs to be done and what types of steps need to be taken, and then we can decide from there how to accomplish those steps.
Now, the work that
What-
Mr. Johnson did was, is he he's a PE, right? Is that
Gordon
right?
Johnson,
Right.
yeah.
And he gave us a report, not to this board, but in 2013 to the previous board.
13, 14, somewhere in there. But
And would,
he's an architect, he's not
oh,
an
he's an
engineer.
architect? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So is it the pleasure of the board to have our town manager look into perhaps pricing for a structural engineer to do the work and bring it back to us for the next meeting?
That's my motion, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and
Can I say
I'm,
one more thing?
I'll clarify first
Yeah.
with him that that's what he said, and that he had several names that he could send me. And he also was, in talking about that, I think he also indicated that they might be able to give us, you know, a rough cost estimate for making it structurally sound. Because he wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, so.
Is that something else we'd need to pursue grants and that type of thing too, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the start point.
There you go.
You know, can it,
Right.
what's the condition and how much is it gonna cost?
Right.
I would further like to add that any could you share the communication you have with the Historic Commission as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have
Yep.
a motion, is it a motion on the floor
Yes.
then? Okay.
May I say one more thing?
Okay.
And this is just my opinion, because I am for preservation of the building. Certainly, I wasn't on the board in 2010 when it was donated to the town to be a museum, and I wasn't on the board in 2015 when they accepted the donation and told the church, the Episcopal Church, that they would put a plaque up in honor of them. And the amount of work that Ms. Hall did, and the town accepted it, and they have an obligation, and they allowed this building to slip through the cracks and get in this condition, and regardless, the town has a responsibility to hold their end of what they promised that church. I am not going to go against what was promised to a church. It's not going to happen. So I think that if we can look into getting it to a point, getting an engineer or whatever's recommended, and then start with stopping the bleeding, the roof, the things that need to be done. And it might be a decade, 2-decade project that goes on for a long time, trying to get grants and do it. But we got to stop the bleeding. We got to get to the point where we can stop the damage that is continually happening from the roof, from the air circulation and things like that. So I just wanted to say that because I think we, as a town, have an obligation to fulfill what we promised the Episcopal Church. Just my opinion.
I agree. I too have served on the Historical Preservation. There was a committee back then as a citizen many years ago, and had the pleasure of getting to know Ms. Hall and Ms. Waring, and we had the rubber ducky race and good times chasing rubber duckies in the wrong direction on Hope Mills Lake. We had the big Jeff Bates concert. I don't know how many of y'all were able to attend that. It was a great event. And we raised the money for historical recognition of the historical district, those signs that you see in downtown Hope Mills. I too am for the preservation of the parish house, and I too would like to see, like Commissioner Larson said, to stop the bleeding on and get the building secured and start reversing the damaging effects that weather has taken on it anything we can do, if we have to get dehumidifiers, get the power cut on, whatever. But if we can get this estimate, I could see where the Hope Mills Historic Preservation Commission could spearhead something like Save the Parish House Initiative, and we can all be one team together and help raise money to save this structure. It's perhaps the oldest structure in Hope Mills, and certainly a worthy cause. So is there any other discussion? And then all those in favor of Mr. Bellfire's motion, please raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you. Next, we have new business. Item A, consideration of approval of allowing the town manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding related to the parking lot at the former golf course property and discussion of ADA compliancy.
I'll start off with this one. I've prepared a very simple and brief memorandum of understanding for the town to enter into with JNM of NC Incorporated, which is, I understand, the entity that owns the parking lot. And essentially what this memorandum does is just clarify that while they own the parking lot, they will allow the town to use it for general access by the public to access the walking trails. I've got in here that we will pay them a consideration of $100, and the reason I have that in there, just for y'all's consideration, is in order to make this a binding memorandum, something that we can enforce and they can enforce, there has to be consideration on both sides. So they're giving us something which is use of the parking lot, and in order for us to do the things we need to do, which is have, we'd like to have notice so that if they change their mind about us using the parking lot, we have some period of time that we can come up with an alternate approach. We're going to need to take some minor steps, I believe, to bring the parking lot and the trail down to the walking path up to ADA compliance. And so in order to have those rights be enforceable, we need to provide them some sort of consideration, even if it's a nominal amount like $100. So that's just to make the agreement, a legally binding agreement on both sides.
Attorney Hartzog, just for clarification before we get too far into this, is a memorandum of understanding, do we need to have the full board here tonight to discuss this matter?
This is not the sale or lease of town property. This is an arrangement where we're allowed to use private property for town use. So I don't think it would fall under that particular ordinance.
Okay.
If you'd prefer to have the board as a whole hear this, we could certainly do that. But I don't think it's required under that ordinance.
That's the will. That's whatever you.
I'm good. Let's carry on.
I'm good with the Mayor Pro Tem. That's why I asked earlier.
Okay.
Did any of this discussion violate the ordinance?
Right.
Before we even started?
I thought we were talking about the parish house then.
Well, that too.
Neither one. I don't believe either one falls under that ordinance.
Okay.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion, or what do y'all want to do?
Could I ask one question, Melissa Adams?
Yes.
To
Yep.
Don Cisco. The
Mhm.
portion
Yeah.
for the
Yes.
walkway from the driveway, from the parking lot onto the golf course, how much of that falls on their property versus ours?
I don't know where the property line is.
Okay, okay. That was my only question. Thanks.
How much would it cost for us to do this? To go from their parking lot down to the entrance way for ADA?
Well, I'll let him speak.
Okay, ma'am. From the parking lot down to where we are proposing looping off the two trails, we went out and did field measurements and just doing it rudimentarily, came up between 5 and 6% slope at the steepest parts, which falls within the 8.33% for the ADA requirements. Side slopes also fall within the requirements for the areas that we saw. Because of the steepness of it, though, we will have to construct, and I believe it's every 30 feet, a resting place, that is a level resting place for folks that are going up and down the slope. So with that said, the cost getting from the parking lot to the walking trail itself will be relatively minimal. Just like I said, a matter of doing the resting places. The qualifier to that is we do have to have it surveyed so that we can identify exactly what the slopes are should the questions be asked. And we want to know that going into it. So if we do it, if there is an area that needs to have some grading done, we can identify that. But it doesn't look like that area is going to have any problems. So the majority of the cost is going to come from the loops that we need to put on to close off the two trails so that we actually have a compliant walking area so that somebody can go and come back, essentially like a track around a football field. And what we've measured off is approximately a quarter of a mile, so it's just about a standard length walking trail.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep, and
Mayor Pro Tem, Don, why are you up here?
Sir.
Thank you, sir. So the parking lot just needs 2 identified handicap parking places.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's going to be minimum cost?
They need to be striped so that
Striped,
they can
okay.
be identified as van accessible, and there have to be signs put on there. Other than that, I don't believe we need to do anything else for the surface.
Okay, and we're doing that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the resting places.
Has to be identified first. That's why we have to have the survey done.
Okay. Okay.
What does the survey run?
That I don't know. We've had a site visit with the engineering firm that's done a lot of the projects like that for the town, and he is working up what needs to happen, and then we will get a cost from them, what it's going to cost for their services to make the identifications, and then we'll get an estimate from them what it's going to cost to actually do the work.
Thanks, Don. Mayor Pro Tem, I think we've got 2 motions in front of us. I think we got one for the MOU by itself, and then we've got another one to direct the town manager to proceed with the work that Don has just described to us with the survey, the striping, the benches.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Am I right, Melissa? Or can I package it in one? Or
I
is it-
think maybe the MOU needs to be done
Yeah, we'll do it
separately.
separately. Right.
Yeah, I think.
That's what I
and-
thought.
And
Okay.
technically, I'm not even sure the MOU needs board approval, but, there's no reason not to. But to clarify, we still need to run this by J&M, so if the board approves us using this MOU, we'll make sure that they're okay with it too. They may or may not have proposed changes or issues, but this is just the draft of what we intend to present to them as far as the MOU.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the draft as
So-
presented.
So we got a motion on the floor to approve the draft of the MOU. Any more discussion? Then all those in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed. And then we've got another motion on the floor.
And the next motion is to direct the town manager to proceed with the survey and the parking lot designations that need to happen along with the benches.
If the MOU goes through.
Well, it's contingent on the MOU.
Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
be contingent on approval of the MOU.
Yep. So we'll do the survey, and then, what about the asphalt work? Do you want me to bring the cost estimate of that back to you
Yes.
all?
Yep.
Is that completed then? Then all in favor of Commissioner Bellflower's motion, raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Next up, we've got discussion and update on tree preservation ordinance by our town attorney.
Right. And I was hoping to have a draft of an ordinance tonight, and I unfortunately did not get a chance to finish that. I'm in the middle of drafting that. I did want to bring to y'all's attention that there is currently a bill making its way through the North Carolina legislature that would prohibit us from adopting a tree preservation ordinance without special legislation. And to the extent that bill is passed, it would nullify any ordinance that we did adopt without special legislation. So I just wanted y'all to be aware of that. I don't know whether it will or will not. There's heavy opposition to it by a lot of municipalities. League of Municipalities is lobbying against it, I believe, because it would severely limit what municipalities could do to preserve trees in their jurisdictions. But we can proceed as we are, and if this bill does pass, it won't matter what we do. But if it doesn't pass, then we can proceed. The other option, of course, is to get special legislation that would allow us to do it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Commissioner Lawrence.
Would it be inappropriate for the board to ask you to draft a letter to legislation, somewhat what the other municipalities are doing as well?
Sure.
You know, to let them know that how we feel about, I know, was it Southern Pines is one of them, or Pinehurst?
It's Town of Southern Pines.
Maybe, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'd be happy to if the board wants to.
You just need consensus, or you want a motion, or
Motion would probably be good if you want me to.
you want to do a motion on it?
Okay, I make that motion then.
Okay. Any discussion on Commissioner Larson's motion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. So that'll come back to us, I guess. All right. Item C, consideration of approval of amendment to the Board of Adjustments ordinance, disbanding current Board of Adjustments and creating appointed Board of Adjustments, and request to county to process through the planning board, and that's to be provided by our town attorney.
All right, so as we were getting ready, as everyone knows, we recently decided to change from the Board of Commissioners serving as the Board of Adjustment to a citizen appointed board. As I was preparing for the hearing, which was supposed to be today, and the training, I realized that we had in our current ordinance that the board served as the Board of Adjustment. What that means is we need to amend the ordinance in order to have a citizen board, and we need to have the ordinance changed to say that it will be a board made up of appointed citizens. The other issue that arose is because this is part of our zoning ordinances, that amendment is a text amendment to our zoning ordinances, which needs to go through the county planning board by both our own ordinances and by North Carolina statute. So I think we are on track now, and I apologize to the Board of Adjustment, who was getting ready to be trained today, and we had to unfortunately cancel that to make sure we did it the right way. But had we proceeded today with doing a new board, it would be subject to challenge. And so we wanted to make sure we had all our, T's crossed and I's dotted before we proceeded forward. So what we need to do procedurally is the board needs to vote, one, to disband the current Board of Adjustment. The reason being is because our ordinance says we have 3-year terms. The current Board of Adjustment is in the middle of its 3-year term, and in order to start over, we need to disband the Board of Adjustment and then re-adopt the ordinance. So procedurally, I think the first vote that y'all need to take to get this done is to disband the Board of Adjustment as it currently is.
I'll make that motion to disband the Board of Adjustment.
We've got a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed?
The next motion I think we need to do is to amend or vote to send the proposed amendment that I believe is in the packet, which will amend our current Board of Adjustment ordinance to have a citizen board instead of a Board of Commissioners board. So you vote to adopt that ordinance and send it to planning, I believe would be the correct procedure.
And will that term be 3 years then?
It's 3 years by statute.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be effective the date of the appointment?
Yes. Date of
Okay.
appointment, which we can't, procedurally, we can't appoint the new board until we've got the ordinance in place. So even though, you know, the board that has been appointed or was appointed will be appointed again, we can't officially appoint them until we've adopted that new ordinance, which means it has to go to planning and come back before the board can actually adopt it. So what we need to do is send that ordinance to the planning board for their review and recommendation, and then it will come back to the board for adoption. And we can adopt that, and then we can appoint the new board of adjustment, and then we can proceed from there.
Was the hearing today canceled?
Yes.
Because of our issues? Or was the zoning board?
Well, it's because of our issues.
Our issues.
And we talked with and Chancellor may want to weigh in on this, but we spoke with the applicant, and I believe we extended their time.
I spoke to the applicant and their agent to let them know the issues and where we came. And let them know that we basically notified them once the hearing is reset.
Okay. So do we have a motion for?
Motion to approve the amendment and send to the joint planning board.
Yes.
Okay. We got a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
And I believe the planning board has agreed to try to sort of fast track this, and I think we'll have it done in relatively short order. June, yeah.
So
Okay.
this amendment will go to the May 21st planning board, and we will bring to you all at the first meeting as opposed to the second meeting when we would typically bring zoning stuff. So this amendment could be approved by you all June 3rd with the new board of adjustment meeting June 17th potentially.
Right.
And all the Board of Adjustment members proposed have been apprised of the matter?
They have, yes.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah.
Question back to Chancellor, and the case that we were supposed to hear tonight, they're good. They fully understand what's happening and know that their case will not be heard until June at the earliest.
They received official notices from the county, and I actually personally called both and sent emails as well, so they are officially okay. And I just let them know that we would notify them once the certificate was scheduled.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would like to say on behalf of the board that we're very much appreciative of the citizens that have stepped up to serve on the new Board of Adjustments, and that we were a little uneasy about wearing two hats there. Yes.
One thing I just want to add, as you're aware, we have a temporary certificate of occupancy. We also talked to the inspection department to ensure that that's extended out long enough to allow this case to be rescheduled.
Right. So they won't be affected by the extension. They're
Nothing, you don't need anything on our end, right, for that extension? You guys are good?
I mean, as long as you all are good.
Everybody's good, right?
Well, I just want to make sure that the folks with that case fully understood exactly what was happening
Yeah.
and the extension out till May, and that they were good. That's the key. All right.
And we've worked to make sure that they don't have any effect because of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Next up, we got the reports and information items. Manager Adams' report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Board of Commissioners. The Lake Bulkhead, the first 3 loads of wall material and Connex were delivered on April 9th and 10th. The contractors are waiting on piles to be delivered. Brower and Herring Park's roofing, the roofing has been completed. And as you can see, we've got air conditioning here, so that's a good thing. Adcock Cemetery, PWC has completed the installation of a water line and meter box, and the connection is projected the week of April 29th. The new telephone system for all town offices was previously scheduled to be installed this week, the week of April 15th. A new date has not yet been determined. We've had to push that out a little bit. Nothing wrong, just some scheduling things. Tentative projected date to begin mosquito spraying is the last week of April, the first week of May. Parks and Recreation has asked if the board would like to ride a float again this year for July 4th. So if you'll,
You need
let
to
me
know tonight, or
let
can
me
we
know.
wait till, can you wait till everybody's back?
We can. the next meeting?
Would that be
Or
okay?
we can email everybody.
That'd be what, May 6th? Either way.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had a good success with the float last year, so, as opposed to everybody individually riding in cars. And then just some reminders. The 2019 State of the Community Luncheon is scheduled for this Wednesday, April the 17th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Crown Coliseum. And reminder that the Town of Hope Mills offices will be closed this Friday, April 19th, for the Good Friday holiday. Easter sunrise service is this Sunday, April the 21st at 7 a.m. at the Town Hall Municipal Complex gazebo. The crossings at Hope Mills Assisted Living Center, located at 7051 Rockfish Road, is rebranding and renaming the facility Harmony of Hope Mills. They have scheduled a grand reopening and ribbon cutting on Thursday, April the 25th at 2 o'clock. And a reminder that the Board of Commissioners' special meeting for citizen engagement is scheduled for Monday, April the 29th at 6 p.m. And then we left off one thing on the reminders under May 4th. That is the first day for the Hope Mills Good to Grow Farmers Market, but it's also the Household Hazardous Waste and Shred event and cleanup sweep. So just wanted to make note that that was inadvertently left off on the reminders.
Are you still posting your report, like on social media?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
After every meeting, we put it on on Facebook.
On the admin page, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Very good.
Yep.
Any questions for the manager on that? On the reminders, I think Town Manager Adams mentioned everything. I don't know, is Mayor Warner going to be back to speak on
Wednesday? I
that she
don't
said?
believe
Maybe
that
not.
she is.
Maybe not,
I
okay.
believe that Mr. McLaughlin is going to be speaking. So.
I would join you, but I'm going to be on vacation. First day's off in a long time.
So we have to go, well, have a good, you have a well-deserved vacation, but it's my understanding Commissioner Larson and Bellflowers and
I look forward to
Commissioner
it.
Edwards is going to the luncheon, and then myself and Drew, and of course Chancellor and Tiffany and James. So we're all going to support him since
They all represent
she's
Team
not
Hope
going to
Mills
be
very
there.
well.
Yep.
What else is on the calendar? We've got, I think we're all looking forward to the citizen engagement event. We had these kind of things way back on my first term, 2012 and 13, and they kind of discontinued, but
Yeah.
really looking for more of an interactive thing with the citizens that we can just go back and forth and answer questions, kind of Johnny on the spot kind of stuff.
Right.
So y'all bring your A game now. Okay.
Oh, yeah?
Always.
Sue Moody out there's going to keep us she's going to keep us honest. Let's see what else we got. Anything else? We've got staff comments. Any staff comments, Ms. Jane?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Any official comments?
I just wanted to add that Heroes Homecoming kicked off their first meeting on Friday down at the library. It was really attended well. Our chair was there, Greeley Mitchell, myself, and a couple other members of the Veterans Affairs Committee. And it looks like the theme this year that we're working on is fitting very well in Heroes Homecoming, and the theme that we're proposing in Hope Mills is a final tribute honoring Normandy 75, which is the 75th anniversary of the Normandy landing. And we will identify the veterans' names that served in Normandy from Cumberland County, much like we did in World War I when we presented that last year during Veterans Day. And may I add that many communities are still reference and talk about that today of how we honored and remembered those family members and those veterans. And we're actively engaged in doing that now in partnership with the American Legion, and Fort Bragg is also involved. We're also looking at something it's really going to be a jump collectively, is to honor our Gold Star and Blue Star family members during Veterans Day. And we talked about that somewhat during our meeting, and something very similar to a luncheon that we have yearly for our Purple Heart recipients. We're looking at trying to do something like that during the Veterans Day festivities for Heroes Homecoming. There was a reporter there from the FO. I think her name is Rachel Roger. She handled it and covered it, and I think she's going to put an article out about the meeting itself. So Mayor Pro Tem, I just wanted to add that, and I'll bring that up again during the committee meetings next week.
And you've got your Veterans Outlook Day.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Day,
That's
May
coming
the
up
3rd,
May
right?
3rd. Yep.
Okay. That's going to be at the
Post Inn, 630 Davis Street.
Very good. Commissioner Edwards?
No, thank you.
And Commissioner Larson, you have anything?
I don't, but I do have a question for Dan.
Sure.
Any update on when we'll have the investigation findings since he's finished?
Yes, I don't have a date in mind, but I believe he has finished all of the interviews he's going to do. And he is in the process right now of drafting what I believe will be his final report to be presented to the board. I'm not sure when he will have that done, but it should be relatively soon.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be, months. It'll be weeks.
Okay.
And he'll report directly to us?
Yes, I believe so. He'll present I believe his intent is to present a written report, and we haven't discussed exactly how that will be presented, whether he'll send it to me to share with you all, or whether he'll email it directly, or however he handles that. But
I think he should come and present it. I mean, I think the public has it, they're paying for it. They have a right to hear it personally.
yeah, I'll mention that to him.
Yeah.
If that's not, I'd like to thank everybody for attending during this pretty evening outside. We've got a few people that hung with us. And if not, we have a motion.
We do.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Go.
We adjourn.